you tired of your outdated kitchen, but you don't have thousands of dollars to spend? Well, what if I told you for less than $300, you could completely transform your kitchen and it only would take a few days? In today's video, I'm gonna show you how I gave my kitchen a stunning DIY makeover for less than $300, and I'm gonna show you every step of the way. My name's Carrie, I'm a designer and founder of the blog Penny Modern, and we've been bringing you affordable modern home decor and DIY projects since 2019. And today, I'm gonna take you along on my kitchen transformation where I painted my kitchen cabinets. This is the after, and I'm gonna show you the before, and I'm gonna show you how to do it, the tips and tricks, as well as what you should do and what you shouldn't do when you're using Heirloom Traditions paint. Make sure you stick around until the end because I'm gonna show you the full before and after transformation, as well as I'm going to give you my 3 lessons learned from this entire experience of painting my cabinets that you're not gonna wanna miss that, because one of these things is gonna make or break if your cabinets look good or not. In terms of getting ready for painting, make sure you block off anything you don't wanna get paint on, put blue tape around the walls and the floor. So here's the paint I use. It's Heirloom Traditions, and this is the color Abbey, which is a warm gray, and I got 3 quarts to do my entire kitchen. So with this and the Deglosser, I think it was around $150 or something like that. They always have good sales, so make sure you check out their website. I'll also link to it down below. And then some of the other supplies that you need. So I bought these also from the Heirloom Traditions shop, and these are a roller and a brush. And so the technique that they use is to brush on the paint and then roll out the brush marks. And I'm gonna tell you, it worked amazing. So I would definitely recommend to use that. And then I had a little paint tray, and you can see there's actually not a lot of paint in here. I would just set my tools on this, and I didn't actually dump my paint out. So that was actually really nice. You can just dip your brush and your roller in there. I also had a sponge applicator that I'll have to link to down below that I used. You guys will see that in the video. And then I would recommend getting some gloves. Here's your blue tape. You could use a tack cloth, or I also just use a microfiber cloth to just wipe off your cabinet like right before you're gonna paint and get all the dust off. And then I also use this for some of the corners and edges. I am going to be using the Heirloom Traditions all-in-one paint. It includes a primer and a top coat, so you don't have to put on multiple different products. This paint does it all. And I am using the color Abbey, which is a warm gray. And the reason I selected Abbey was actually because we are keeping the granite countertops in this kitchen. So I needed to pick a color that was already in that granite, which there is quite a bit of a brownish and gray color in that. I'm also going to be leaving the cabinet doors on because that is going to save me so much time. That was one thing that I really liked about the Heirloom Traditions. You don't have to sand, you don't have to take the cabinet doors off, and it's self-leveling. So that's why I picked this paint. It seemed very easy and something I could do in a weekend. The first step in this process of painting your cabinets, it's all about the preparation. So this paint, it has a primer and a top coat built into it. You really just need to put maybe 2 coats of this paint on. And unfortunately for me, my cabinets were pretty messed up. You can see here, I actually went ahead and sanded this, but this was gel stained. And there was a lot of places where the gel stain had worn off and it was all gunky. So on a few of these, I did sand it down. But mainly, if you don't have chipped paint and gross cabinets, you really just need to do a deglosser. And they actually sell one through Heirloom Traditions. This is a cleaning wipe that has a deglosser in it. They also sell it in a liquid form. And I also bought TSP substitute, which is a tried and true method that you wipe this on your cabinets to clean it of all the grease and everything. So you really want to de-grease and de-gunk your entire kitchen cabinets because the oils from your hand build up, and then obviously food and anything near your stove. I'm gonna show you guys, I'm going to do the deglosser and prep these cabinets for painting. I am gonna use the Heirloom Traditions deglosser, and it says to put some on a sponge, wipe it on the cabinet, let it sit 60 seconds, and then use a scrubber, and then dry it with the towel. And I forgot to take the hardware off, so I'm gonna take that off. But definitely is a good idea to take your hardware off before you start doing the cleaning and deglossing, so you don't make the same mistake I did. So there's a lot of gunk in there in the hardware. These are probably 15 years old or something like that. And so now I need to go and get all this gunk off with the cleaner and the deglosser. Now I'm going to try the deglosser wipes. So I think that these are going to be a lot easier. And basically you just wipe this on and you should be good to go. One cleaning wipe will wipe 2 to 3 cabinet doors. And once it's clean, wipe with a clean, dry towel. This part above the stove is actually the dirtiest and greasiest and nastiest. So I'm gonna go at it just with the Heirloom Traditions deglosser. It's also supposed to be a cleaner, a degreaser. So I'm just gonna go at it with that and see if that gets rid of everything. I wanted to show you guys how nasty it is and greasy up here. This has actually been the hardest part, the cabinets above the range. And it's because there's 20 years of grease up here because all they had was this microwave as their vent hood, which I don't think worked very well. But it literally, when I'm cleaning this, it smells like a hamburger. I had to resort to using a credit card to basically scrape off the grease on here because nothing would work. The degreaser didn't work. I tried Dawn. I tried the magic eraser. I tried the TSP substitute. I think I could probably try Goo Gone. I resorted to just scraping it with a credit card. And you can see there's stuff all over the credit card and it's pretty gnarly up here. We are doing our final prep and I'm inspecting each of the cabinets to see if I feel like they're clean and deglossed and free of dust. And it's supposed to be squeaky clean. If you're like me and you are wanting to do a kitchen makeover project, I've got a great free gift for you. It is a kitchen makeover budget worksheet, and it basically is gonna line out almost everything that you might need to spend money on for your kitchen renovation project. And that way you can create a budget and figure out how much it's gonna cost you, because I know that's obviously on your mind, because it's on my mind all the time. And I actually used it for my project. I actually, just for the paint and the deglosser and the cleaning and then the hardware, it was less than $300. And I think that this is one of the biggest bang for your buck projects, is painting your cabinets, because it can just make your kitchen look amazing and brand new. And so get yours today. It's at pennymodern.com/freebies, and that link is down in the description. Since I did all my prep yesterday, I'm gonna do the taping now and get started painting soon. So I'm just using a standard blue tape that I got from Home Depot. I think the trick with blue tape is you need to make sure that you press it really tightly right next to the area that the paint's gonna be, so that way the paint doesn't seep into it. And then also you're gonna want to basically, as soon as you paint, you take the tape off each time. So you'll have to do taping 2 times. The first thing that the instructions say to do on the Heirloom Tradition paint, it says to make sure you stir it very thoroughly. I think they said it's 2 minutes that you have to stir this. I'm done stirring and I'm going to try this out on an inside door here. I just want to see how it goes on. I suggest that you do this as well. An inconspicuous place is where you want to test out your paint. Make sure you absolutely love the color. Or also from Heirloom Traditions, you can actually get really cute little sample sizes. So you could always put it on and test it on an inner door. The first way that you're supposed to put this on, they have a number of different ways. So if you go on Heirloom Traditions, and I'll link to that, they have a lot of different techniques, but the one I'm gonna use is I'm gonna take this sponge that they sell on their website, and you actually will turn this over somehow and put the paint on there, and you wipe it on, and then you coat the door with paint, and then you're gonna stipple to try to get rid of the brush strokes. So they call this first coat the ugly coat. And so basically it's the bonding coat. And so you don't have to be too stressed out if it doesn't look great, because you're gonna put another coat over it to cover it up. It says you're supposed to turn this upside down and get it on your applicator, which I just did. Oh my gosh. There you go. And then we are going to put this on the door, and then we'll see how it goes. I'm wiping it on, okay? I watched a lot of videos. They have a lot of tutorials on their website, which is awesome. And they say just wipe it on, and then you're gonna do this stippling technique, which stippling is just like patting. So there is a lot of paint on there. You definitely wanna put something underneath so you don't get stuff on your floor. So now I'm gonna stipple. You are gonna see some bubbles while you stipple. They said, don't worry about the bubbles. This is a self-leveling paint. Now how we paint around the hinges. You just literally paint with a small paintbrush around the hinges. Then you don't have to take them off, which is what I am gonna do. This is the second time I painted cabinets. We painted cabinets in my first house that we ever bought, and it took me a month. And you have to label each cabinet door, and you take them all off, and you have to find a place to do it, that there's plenty of room. And it's honestly just a lot of work. And it took me a month last time. And I think, honestly, this is probably gonna take me a weekend. So to go from a month painting your cabinets to a weekend, you obviously can tell the difference. Like this, if this dries in an hour or two, and I can put on both coats today and basically be done. You be the judge. Would you rather spend a month painting your cabinets? Because I had to basically do the cleaning, and I had to do the degloss. Then I had to put on a primer, and then I had to put on 2 coats of the paint, and then I had to put a top coat on that I messed up because that was using just the regular cabinet painting techniques, right? But this, you just put 2 coats of the paint on and that's it. There's no top coat, no nothing. So I will make sure I post an updated video on how well this paint holds up. I'll either do 6 months or a year, so make sure you hit subscribe. And that way I can keep you guys informed on if this holds up. Because I do have kids. I did just put a little bit more paint on, and I'm gonna do that stippling technique. I probably should have taken the stuff out of my cabinets, especially because this is on YouTube, but whatever. I'm trying to be very lazy. I'm just gonna push this stuff back so I don't get paint on it. And I'm doing this stipple technique. I think it looks pretty good, guys. This is your ugly coat, and it looks good. Again, just follow the directions from Heirloom Paints. I watched a ton of the videos. So I got a drip over here that's on the inside of the cabinet. I'm not gonna paint the inside, I'm just gonna paint the face. So I just use water and a paper towel, and you can clean it up super easy. If you make a mistake, I also got some on the hinge here. So I'm gonna get that, and it's easy to clean up. So now we're gonna paint the outside of this cabinet with our technique. So we basically, you put this thing on and then you turn it and you get this loaded with paint, and then you wipe it on, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm gonna try to get it in these recessed areas really good. It might be better to use a brush in this area, but the sponge is working, I'd say, pretty good. You're really trying to get full coverage. You don't want to be skimpy on this. Now I'm going to start to stipple. I'm going to stipple the recessed areas first, and I might deposit a little bit more paint on while I'm stippling. The goal of this stippling is really to make sure you get full coverage and also to get rid of brush strokes. So there's a lot of spots here. I can still see the wood underneath. So what I'm trying to do is basically make it so you can't see the wood anymore. And that way you have a full coverage of paint. You're gonna see a lot of bubbles. There's like a ton of bubbles on here. So you're like, oh my gosh, this is gonna look horrible. But remember that this is self-leveling. And so basically all those bubbles are gonna disappear. The drawers I'm gonna pull out a little bit, so if I do drip, I don't drip on my door that I just painted. I probably should have started up here. I'm just gonna smear it on and just try to get as much coverage as I can. So now I'm gonna stipple and just try to get this bad boy done. And this one I'm gonna get the bottom, I'm gonna get the sides, gonna get the top. Just try to get this bad boy done, and that's it. Now I'm going to paint the outside of the cabinet using the sponge. What I noticed on the doors is I'm probably not getting enough paint. I've been watching the Heirloom Traditions videos very closely, and you really need to put a pretty thick coat of this paint on when you're doing everything. So the technique here, you gotta really kind of like glop on this initial coat before you stipple to get full coverage. You don't wanna see the cabinet color underneath. We need a nice thick coat of paint here before we stipple. The other nice thing about this paint is it is low VOC, which is great. You don't need to have a lot of ventilation. Here is a pro tip about using the tape. So I recommend removing the tape immediately after you paint, because you're gonna be able to see the leaks and try to address it right away. If you wait until it dry, you basically will have to paint over the other color paint on your wall or whatever, and also for your floor. Now we're gonna try the brush and roll technique, and I'm gonna do that here on the base of the cabinets. So watch me try. You first brush on the paint, and then you use the little roller to just take away the brush marks very lightly. Here is the brush, and we're just gonna brush it on, and then we're gonna use that little roller to roll out all of the paint strokes. So that way it looks really smooth. I'm trying this as an alternative to the sponge, and then you quickly just really lightly go over it. You're not pushing down hard at all. You're literally just barely going over it to get rid of all the brush strokes. And you also get rid of the drips and stuff too. One of the drawbacks about leaving your doors on while you paint is there's actually a little strip in there that I haven't gotten with my paintbrush. So I need to go in there with this little tiny paintbrush and get that and try to smooth it as best as I can. It's not really it's covered up by the door, so it's not that big a deal, but I do want to get that. I wanted to show you guys a little painting hack I like to use. So instead of doing glue tape at the top here where the crown molding is, I actually put this guy along here, and then I paint, and that way you don't need any tape. So it's a little hack. This is a taping knife. Now we are getting ready for the second coat. I wanted to show you guys, this is the next day. I wanted to show you guys what the first coat looks like. And this is what the Heirloom Traditions lady says is the ugly coat. This is one that we used for the stippling technique, where you use the foam sponge and then you stipple it. And it's a really smooth finish. You can see here, there is a little bit of brown showing through. So that's why it obviously needs a second coat. And I'll show you guys the inside here, but we have one coat on everything and it's looking pretty good so far. So I did see a couple of drips, and you can see here, I don't know if this is a drip, but it's kind of a bump. What I would advise is, as the paint is still wet, go around and look at it and see if you can see any drips, and then take your little tiny paintbrush and just wipe off the drip before it dries. That would be my advice if you are gonna do this. Make sure you hunt for drips. We're about to do the second coat, and I am really liking this other technique, which is the brush and roll. So the first part is you brush on the paint and you slather it on, and then you use this little sponge, which I just washed and dried with a paper towel to get the paint off. And this, you just basically use this very, very lightly to remove the brush strokes. This is a very good technique, and it helps give you a very smooth finish. I wouldn't say it's as good as a spray gun, but it's pretty good. You can't see any brush marks. The only thing, the downside is I wish that they had a really tiny one of these to get into the paneling here and in the corners. It's not working that well, but what I end up doing is I push it in there, even though you can't roll it, in the corners, and then here you can roll it here, which is fine. I'm gonna show you guys a little bit of a close-up of this brush and roll technique, but we get the paintbrush loaded, and then we're just basically painting. I don't really care what the underside looks like, just going for it here. And you really need to get a nice thick coat on there, because then you're gonna take your roller and really spread it out. Now we're gonna take our roller and we're going to roll the brush strokes out. So you can see here, it just rolls all the brush strokes right out, which is pretty awesome. Now I'm gonna roll it to get rid of all the brush strokes. But you gotta do it while it's still wet. You gotta do it really quick, and you just barely use any pressure on this. You're just trying to get rid of the brush strokes, really. You're not trying to paint with this roller. It really doesn't get that much paint on it. I really like this technique. You can't even tell that you did it with just a paintbrush. Now it's time to put on some of the cabinet hardware, and we got some really cool brass hardware from Amazon. I'll link to it down below, and we're gonna do that right now. I wanted to show you guys how I put the marks on for the cabinet knobs to make sure that you get them in the same spot. So we actually ended up moving our cabinet knobs, and they used to be up here, and we're gonna move them down here because I just feel like that's a little bit more of a modern look. So you put some blue tape on, and you put it in the spot there that you want. You don't mark up your cabinets, and then I'm gonna make the mark on there. I am gonna use this thing that I got a while ago. It has holes in it. You use this as a guide, and you figure out where you want your cabinet handle to sit, and you find the right hole for it. And then you can use this same hole. I had decided I wanted to use this hole right here. And so you basically line it up with the edge of your cabinet, and then you can mark it right here, and that's where the cabinet pull will go. And so that way it's gonna be in the same place on every cabinet when we drilled the holes. Once you use your tool to mark your spot for your handle, you take a drill, and we just used a drill bit that was the same size as the bolt for our hardware, and that's the size we're gonna use. Then I'm gonna peel my tape off, and here's the hardware, and we're gonna try to put this through the back. So now we're gonna take you guys on the full reveal, the full before and after montage. So let's see it. Now I want to take you through those 3 biggest lessons learned from this entire experience of painting my kitchen cabinets. But first, if you want to learn how to decorate your home like a pro on a budget you can actually afford doing projects like this, hit subscribe, because that's what we're all about here at Penny Modern. And also, I'm going to be doing phase 2 and phase 3 of my renovation project, which will be painting the countertops. And then eventually we're going to put in backsplash, a new hood vent, probably remove those uppers cabinets, and put in some shelves. So make sure you stick around and hit subscribe so you get notified when I drop those next videos. Now on to those 3 big lessons learned. So lesson number 1 that I learned was that you really need to do a good job prepping your cabinets and getting them extremely smooth. So I did make a couple of mistakes, and I'm gonna show them to you guys right now. And the one that was probably the biggest is over the microwave here. So there is literally years of grime and gunk up here from people cooking, the previous owners and stuff. And I don't think they ever really used the vent on this microwave very much. So it made me realize that having a microwave above your range is a really bad idea, because you get so much grease and gunk above your kitchen and even up on the ceiling. It's disgusting. And so I'm definitely gonna replace this, and when we do our full remodel, put in a proper hood vent, because I just think we'll use it more often and it'll be more sanitary. But there is like a spot right here that is really, really bumpy, and it is not ideal. And that is actually from the grease, and I didn't clean it all the way, but I just painted over it anyway. The other spot that's a little bumpy is I did not properly fill in the cabinet holes. Might be hard to see here. And so you can kind of see the cabinet holes still. I didn't fill it all the way in and make it perfectly smooth. So I wish I would have done a better job on that. So make sure things are perfectly smooth. The next lesson I learned was around color selection. So in terms of this paint color, this is the Abbey Gray by Heirloom Traditions, and it is a warm gray. Now, when we put on just one coat, you could still see the brown underneath a little bit. So it actually looked purple, and I was kind of freaking out, I'm gonna be honest. Luckily, with 2 coats, it looks a lot better. I'm not 100% in love with it with this granite, and I think this granite is dated. It has black, gray, brown, beige, all kinds of colors in it. I did pick this, I feel is gray, and maybe it's a brown instead of gray, but I should have definitely did a paint swatch, like actually painted, got a sample and painted it on the inside of a cabinet and looked at it and see if it works. So I'm still not 100% sure. I think that these undertones are maybe a little bit brown, but it's also a little bit cooler. And then this is a very warm and yellow undertone. So they don't really look super great together, which is why we're probably gonna be painting the countertops, which I wasn't really planning on. I was hoping to just keep the countertops as they were, but you gotta roll with the punches. So I recommend for you, don't make the same mistake I did. Get a little sample, especially if you're getting from Heirloom Traditions. They have all kinds of promos to get samples for really cheap and sometimes free, just paying for shipping, and test it out on the inside of your cabinet door so that way you can see what it looks like in your actual kitchen, because it can vary depending on how much light you have and stuff like that. And we'll go on to the next tip. So this next lesson learned is about painting techniques. So one regret I have is there are a few drips. So you can see right here, I don't know if you can see it or not, there is some dripping here. I think what I did was when I did my first base coat, I just painted it and moved on, but I needed to go back and check it every 5 minutes to check for drips. And that is where I failed. And so there is a few spots where there are drips that I didn't catch until they dried. So I highly recommend that you do that, is check for drips while it's still wet. And then the other thing was around these corners that there is some paint here. So I had put in my blue tape and did a rookie mistake, which I've done so much painting, I can't believe I did it. I put the tape up and I painted on the cabinet, and then I let the paint sit there, and so it seeps under, and then now I have to go back and correct this and put white over it. It's just an extra step, and I'm lazy, so that is something I kind of regret, and hopefully that helps you guys out. What do you guys think of my kitchen makeover? Let me know down in the comments below. Would you try this yourself or not? Let me know. I'd love to know. And make sure you get your kitchen budgeting worksheet so you can plan your next project and know how much it's gonna cost you. And that's at pennymodern.com/freebies. And then make sure you watch this next video, which is another part of my kitchen design series. And I'll see you in that next video.